They're all business, except when they're not. It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. I have finally got the chance to travel and head to New York City for the first time in 18 months. I got to join John in person, and we thank our friends at SPI Marketing, which hosted us at Comic-Con New York. So the Focus Group traveled to Comic-Con New York thanks to our friends at SPI Marketing and their Queer and Ally Lounge. We got to interview some great characters there, I guess is the way I'll phrase it. And
I think, characters.
When John had said we were going to go there, I figured it was a place John had always been. But John, you've not been to Comic-Con before.
No. I got to moderate a panel in the Queer and Ally Lounge, which our friend Scott hosted at Comic-Con this year, and I used the phrase that I was a Comic-Con virgin, and everybody laughed. But now I've been, baptized in the world of Comic-Con. And just to put this in perspective, 2020, due to the event, Comic-Con was virtual, which is very different. And normally the show hosts about 600,000 attendees over the 4-day period here when it's hosted in New York City. This year it was 300,000, so it was a reduced show floor and a reduced roster of guests and attendees. But I think it would be hard. You'd be hard pressed to figure that out because it was, from my opinion, it was packed. I was there for 3 straight days. I saw people dressed as all kind of people. And my favorites, of course, were some of the people that were dressed as characters from Star Wars. So if anybody knows the movie Rogue One, there was a character called Director Krennic, and he wore like a white Imperial uniform and a white cape. There were a couple of those people drifting around Comic-Con, and whenever I would walk by, I would go, "Command Director Krennic," and they would actually thank me for figuring out who they were. I took Bob on Friday and Saturday, and he got some hilarious pictures of people in costume. And then he has a picture, I should really put it up on our YouTube or Facebook thing, of these 2 guys that were dressed as, I think they were dressed as game characters, but their costume was their body. These guys were ripped, and they were shirtless and ripped, and all they had, I think you saw I sent you the picture, right, Tim?
You may have. Well, the one that I saw was somebody that probably should not have had
spandex on.
Yeah.
That was a lot of that.
But you'll have to post that because people will want to see that certainly on our site. But Scott, it was weird being in New York, not having been there in 18 months and traveling on Amtrak. So Amtrak has a mask mandate, which was fine, and I got to go to the new train station, and it was good.
And the TikTok Diner. You got to see Bob. It was kind of a replay of I last saw Tim physically on March 10th of 2020, around there, and that 8th or 10th, and it was our last in-studio broadcast. And it was we have this pattern, Tim arrives in Grand Central, we go to the TikTok Diner, we go to the studio, then back to Penn Station. So it was kind of cool to do that, and it felt like no time had passed at all, but the world had indeed changed in between there, right?
Right. So it was great to be back there, and it's great to see people around again. I mean, the great thing about Comic-Con was that there were so many people, and I think people were just happy to be out and about, and it was just a good crowd of folks to get out in the fall and experience New York City because our cities are so vibrant and essential for our country, and so it was good to see people out and about. And again, thanks to Scott at SPI Marketing for hosting us. Who did we talk to, Mr. Nash? I know I came up the first day, and we had a couple of interviews, then some surprise guests from RuPaul's Drag Race, and then the second day you had an interview. So you want to tell the folks who we talked to?
I will, and I'll also tell listeners that Tim's always, when we do remotes, that means we're not in studio and we're interviewing a range of guests. Tim takes the, not a contrarian, but kind of a devil's advocate point of view. Is like, what's the story? What are we going to talk about? But I'm pleased to announce that after all our interviews, Tim said, I think I really liked all the people we talked to, and I think they were fun interviews. So stay with us. So Scott from SPI Marketing arranged for us to talk to 2 comic book artists and writers, Isaac Goodhart and Dan Parent. Isaac got a start at Top Cow Comics, where he illustrated 26 issues of the Postal book. He's drawn a lot of stuff. He's worked in the industry for a while. He's an ally, LGBTQ ally, and he was great to speak to him. And he also did a limited edition of something called someone called Storm, X-Men Storm, and he took Dominique Jackson, an actress, and he portrayed her as Storm. She actually appeared at the lounge later on, and I didn't realize at the time that Dominique Jackson was, in fact, Elektra from the House Elektra, the TV series Pose. Other artists interpreted her as well in their world, and that would be Dan Parent, who is known for creating the gay character Kevin for Archie's. He also interpreted her as a poster, and they were there to help raise money for Glisten. So she came to visit on Saturday when Tim wasn't there, and she came and signed posters and gave a little speech, and all the money they raised from selling these limited edition comic posters went to Glisten. And then, as Tim said, we had some surprise guests from RuPaul's Drag Race, and they were Jackie Cox, Tammie Brown, and Yuhua Hamasaki. And they were lots of fun. You will hear the smiles in my questions. Like, once I'm around a drag queen, especially because they're like comedians, right, Tim? They're like stand-up. I can't stop smiling. The back of my head hurts after a while. So that's what we've got. We've got the lineup there. So I think we're going to kick it off with Isaac Goodhart. And as I said, he is an artist and on Artifacts and Postal DC Comics, an ally of the community, and he's a really, really cool guy. So enjoy the conversation with him. The Focus Group is at Comic-Con New York City, coming to you from SPI Marketing's Queer Ally Lounge. And sitting right next to me is our first guest, Isaac Goodhart, who's an artist and an ally. Told I had to say that just in case, right? Welcome to the show. Tim and I love to talk about business, career, marketing, and how people get into things. Before I go further with some instructive questions, do you have a direct career or an accidental?
Very direct. I was very narrow-minded with my career. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do was draw comic books. So I wanted to draw comics since I was a teenager, and I started looking at colleges like as a kid. How do you do this? So there are like 2 schools in America where you can major in comic books. So I pinpointed the that path, and there's definitely unplanned bumps in the road. This is not an easy job to fall into. I think very few of us accidentally fall into comics because it's so highly competitive, because it's so chaotic, and because, honestly, you don't make a lot of money doing it. So you have to really love it. You got to really want to be in this world. And it's 100% worth it. I need to make that clear. I'm living my dream job.
So as a... thank you, Isaac. This is Tim. So the comics that you liked as a kid, do you still like the same ones, or did you evolve over time? Do you like the same comics?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, because my goals were very set ever since I was a kid, and a lot of the goals are like, I'm still looking back and I'm like, I gotta follow through with that promise that I made to myself when I was a child. But now as I get older and things change and you sort of see behind the curtain, I think this is a very common experience for all of us, no matter what field you're in. But now as I get older, the dreams that I had of, I need this action figure line, I need to create this character in the Spider-Man universe, that sort of falls away, especially also when you start to actually achieve a lot of this stuff. You go, okay, I did that, I feel the same, so let me reassess what actually makes me happy. Let me reassess and take stock of where I actually am. And so now as I get older, I'm in my mid-30s now, I'm just like, what I want to do really is I want to work with my friends. I want to work with people that inspire me, that I enjoy being around. So that's where I am right now. And I've been very lucky to work with Vita Ayala. We did a Wonder Woman short together. I've worked with Brian Hill on many things. So that's all I want to do. I just want to keep working with people that I like.
All right, so sort of picking up on the theme of working with people who you like, who have you found, or who has been influential from a mental or personality point of view to your career? So you actually pinpoint 1, 2, or 3 people that were just inspirational,
profoundly impactful. Yeah, no, absolutely. Y'all have been doing this for a while. Y'all are asking very good questions. You're listening. I'm very impressed. That's to answer your question, John. It's Klaus Janssen deserves the biggest thank you from me, without a doubt. He was one of my teachers at SVA, and that was 2010. I graduated, so I've known him for a very long time. You guys are gonna have to do the math because I cannot. But he's great. He's going to be here at the show with Essential Sequentials. He just had a short in the DC's recent Pride anthology where he did a Green Lantern talking about his identity to his son, and it's a beautiful story. He's been in the industry. He's a legend. He's been in the industry since I think the late 70s, maybe early 80s, and he's constantly getting better. And he's a big inspiration for me, not just in terms of talent, but who I want to be as an artist and as a person. He's endlessly curious. Did
he find you or did you find him? Because
I scoped him out. He was teaching at SVA, and I needed to be in his class because he had a reputation that preceded him. But also he worked on Dark Knight Returns. So if you talk to any comic book nerd, if you talk to anybody who grew up reading comics, they always talk about Dark Knight Returns, they always talk about Watchmen, and they always talk about Batman Year One. And that's sort of like the trifecta for those are the three books that sort of changed the public's perception of what this medium is. And so those books all came out in the late 80s, and those were the books that changed everyone's perception. And society went, oh, comic books can be high art. They can transcend sort of what people used to think of them as, which were kid stories, like picture books. So Klaus Janssen was the inker with Frank Miller, who would later go on to do Sin City. What else is Frank Miller famous for? Ronin, a lot of the bigger books in our history. And they collaborated on Daredevil together, and then Dark Knight Returns, which is a seminal work. So I wanted to talk to him, and he's always been very supportive. He's always been very kind and generous with his time. So he's someone that I keep in touch with and talk to all the time.
What about personally? In other words, as a kid or as you got older and you're in school and you say you want to be an artist and illustrator as a career and work in this industry, was your family saying, that might be a fun hobby? But so did.
Oh my God, hilarious!
So personally, were you encouraged?
Yeah, so I come from a Jewish Korean household, so I think you're going to hear a lot of
good food though.
Well, great food. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, you should come over for Korean barbecue. You're doing that, Scott. All right, we're gonna have a party at my place, so my mother was traditional in that Asian way, and my mother took a lot of pride in calling herself a tiger mom. So she would say, listen, you are not going into art, and if you do, you better go to medical school first. And if she were here right now, she would not be offended. She would be like, yeah, I did say that, and I stand by it.
She wants you to be like a doctor and
yeah, she wanted arts to be the backup plan, which is not really how it works. If you talk to most artists, very few of us are splitting our times between heart surgery and Superman. So but it's also it's not uncommon. I'm pretty sure Koi Fong has a brilliant. I think he was going to school to be an attorney. I think Jim Lee went to medical school. It's actually common, and we all have the same story of our parents going, no, absolutely not. You better. You could come around to this later, but you better we need to make sure you're gonna be okay first. My father, Jewish. My father though, always ever since I was a teenager was oh, you're professional level, and I knew that he was wrong, but it still really helped to have him in my corner saying, yeah, you're the best artist I've ever known in my life.
I have a pretty strangely technical question for you. Did you begin learning with traditional tools, and is there a difference in craft between actual physical media?
Right. Well, first of all, John, you deserve a major shout out for pulling out Rapidograph.
Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
Yeah, I know. Well, what Wikipedia article did you look up to get that juicy detail? Oh, were you? Okay, very cool.
Rapidographs, I just have to clean.
All right, so yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. So I started with the same tools, and we were all learning traditional. And that's anything. You got to learn the fundamentals. If you're a dancer, you got to start learning ballet before you go modern. So for me, it was in school, in college, I was all traditional. And there were a couple of people coloring digitally, there were a couple of people drawing digitally. But for the most part, we were all using the same tools and learning the fundamentals, learning the basics. I even took sculpture class, I took painting classes. And then I've always been resistant to change. And that's just been me personally. But I could not get a comic book job after graduating college. I worked at a candy store. I was selling candy. I actually was freelancing. I did a shirt for a rapper named Wiz Khalifa, who was huge at the time. I remember some kid came in wearing a Wiz Khalifa shirt. And at first I was really excited. I was like, oh, you're wearing the shirt that I drew. And he's just looking at me holding a box of Peeps. And he's like, you're a loser. He didn't say that, but I saw it in his eyes. The entire time I was doing that, I was trying to get a job in art and trying to make that my full-time career. So I actually did get, not in comics, but I did get a storyboarding job. They flew me out to California. And that's where I learned digital drawing, because you had to. And it was trial by fire. So I jumped into the deep end and I had to learn all this stuff very quickly. And so, so I worked from around 10 to 6 doing storyboards for Purina, public supermarkets, Coca-Cola, Coors Light. And then from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., I was working on comic books. So I was drawing digitally. I was teaching myself the tools, learning how to do Cintiq stuff. And that's what I do now. So I'm all digital. I'm only drawing on the Cintiq tab.
So how long, this is kind of a double-sided question, I guess. So how long have you been in the industry? And then how have you seen it evolve since we're here in the Queer and Ally Lounge?
Yeah.
And we've had lots of, particularly in the last 3 years, lots of diversity and inclusion has really come out to the forefront in a lot of areas, culturally and socially. How have you seen your industry change, or has it? And what do you think? And what do you think of it?
It's changed profoundly since I started. So I started in 2014. That's when my professional career, I guess you could say, broke in. It's funny, I think very few comic book creators feel like they've really broken in. It's sort of like a contract that we got to keep re-upping and keep proving that we're still doing it. We're still in it, by the way. And it's more of a slow build-up than really of a breaking in. But I started with Postal, which was a book from Top Cow Comics, which you mentioned up top. And then I got linked up with DC Comics when that book was coming to a close. So DC Comics flew me out, and I met with all the editors, and I've been there since. So I've done a couple of books with them. So that's sort of been my career. And then as far as how has the industry changed, it has become a lot more inclusive. A lot of stuff that was subtext, a lot of stuff that was queer subtext in books like X-Men, where they never state North Star's identity. But if you're reading the book, Now he got married to his partner, and that was I think that was the first gay wedding at Marvel. So there's a lot more of that. Iceman came out of the closet in the X-Men books. So the X-Men books especially have moved into to embrace a lot more. So all this stuff that was a wink and a nod now is very big and up front and front and center in the X-Men books. And in a lot of the other books too. Batwoman is queer, and she has her own TV show. And you go anywhere, in every direction. It's much bigger and much more inclusive with all identities, race, queer identities. And then just for me, personally, on a personal note, the number one biggest influence on me is drag and drag culture. So alternative drag, Dragula, RuPaul's Drag Race. So I incorporate as much of that into my work as possible, which you can see in everything that I've done. I love big hair, So if you look, I have a working theory that all superheroes are drag queens. So if you look at any Batman comic, look at any Superman comic, they all talk, So every time I approach the work, big hair, big curly, insane perms and everything. So that's me, and I feel very good about talking about those influences and bringing it into my work and saying very proudly, this is what I love. And everybody everyone has been very supportive and very cool about that. So it's been awesome.
So as we wrap up, a question that I always find fascinating, depending on where you're at in your career, is there anything you have not taken on yet that you're looking forward to?
I've got goals. I got goals, John. We're working on it. It's in the mail. Stay tuned and find out. But yes, no, truly, there are a lot of people in the industry that I admire, that I've admired since I was young, that I would very much like to collaborate with. And, we're working on it. I've got a bunch of very big things that are percolating right now. So if you stay tuned, we've got some announcements coming out early next year that I'm really, really looking forward to.
Could you tell us something about yourself that nobody knows that they'd be surprised about?
I'm not allowed in Urban Outfitters because I was caught shoplifting. So let's end there.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm a real badass. I don't know if you got that, gleaned that just from talk, but yeah, I'm a bad boy.
I don't know if we could top it. We've asked that question a million times. I don't know how,
I'm not welcome in Urban Outfitters. No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Now, you look like you could work there.
I do look like everyone who works there.
Wow. So I'm kind of
Speechless.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah, it was a
speechless.
very embarrassing night for me.
I don't know where to go with this now.
Well,
Yeah. So, hey, well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
It was
This
great
was a
time.
lot of fun.
Where-
Real
if,
pleasure.
if people wanted to follow you, do you have any social media places they
Sure.
can locate you? You want to let everyone know how to
I
how
have
to find
Twitter. I have Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram. So if you want to keep up with me with my projects as they develop, I'm just at Isaac Goodhart. But you can just search my name and find me wherever I'm posting.
All right, thank you, Isaac Goodhart, artist. Fantastic interview. And denied. No, was it?
you? Urban Outfitters.
Was it Urban?
That's it. Let the world
That's
know.
hilarious.
Wow. Well, it makes me feel like I need to still tell the shoplifting story too. But anyhow, we're going to be right back after a quick break, so stay with us. The focus group is at Comic-Con New York City, coming to you from SPI Marketing's Queer and Ally Lounge. And sitting next to me for our next interview is the one and only Jackie Cox. Focus group is at Comic-Con New York City, coming to you from the SPI Marketing's Queer and Ally Lounge. And sitting right next to me, folks, is the fabulous Jackie Cox. And she is attired magnificently. And I've been told that today we're going to see a new deep cut Star Trek outfit. But it's coy, no hints, no dropping anything. So true surprise, correct?
So today, obviously, this is the big day. The Marvel Universe, we just announced that there's going to be a Agatha spin-off of WandaVision, so I, of course, came dressed up as the Amazing Witch, Agatha Harkness, for all of us nerds. But yeah, I'm going to be wearing a deep-cut Star Trek look. By the time this podcast comes out, you may have already seen it.
Yes.
You'll have already seen
It's
it.
coming out right before Halloween.
You'll have already seen it, but all I'll tell you is she only appeared once on the original series, but this character was intended to be in a spin-off of Star Trek. That's all. Ooh.
Yeah, this could be a whole show with you two. No, I am known as the non-sci-fi person. So look at how excited he is, John.
Now you're going to be thinking.
I know. He'll think the whole, and it'll go on and on. Yeah. Hey, I have a quick question for you. Being of Nova Scotia stock myself,
Oh yeah.
but Parsboro, which has the highest tides in the world. I don't know if you knew that. It's a stop on the way.
Yeah,
off the island.
I was
Or
born
off-
in Nova Scotia. I left, unfortunately, when I was a toddler. I have not been back.
I was going to say, how old were you when your
Yeah,
family
like
left?
2 when I left Nova Scotia. So I don't know it. I've been back as an adult, but I'm dying to go. It's the place of my birth. It's where my parents met. And, in theory, fell in love and had me. I know they divorced shortly after. But so I haven't been back. I've been to lots of other parts of Canada. My dad's family is mostly in British Columbia, but my grandparents lived in Toronto for a long time when I was younger. Before,
Okay.
like all Canadian grandparents, they moved to Victoria, which is
Well,
like
British-
every Canadian person I meet, like, oh yeah, my grandparents live in Victoria.
Yeah, British Columbia is gorgeous, but you would love if you haven't been to Halifax, you should go. You should go back to Nova
That's
Scotia.
where I was born. I haven't
Yeah.
been since since I was able to talk.
Before we get into some of your stint on RuPaul's Drag Race, I have a question for you, just as drag queens in general.
Sure.
Where did your name come from, Jackie Cox?
Jackie Cox, actually, it's a name my friend made up in college. It's kind of this character that we invented. You know, we were around a lot of young, aspiring actresses at UCLA, which is where I went to school. And so Jackie Cox was kind of this, almost this like Rachel Berry character that we had created in our minds. She was like the biggest musical theater diva of them all. And then we would just pretend we were Jackie Cox. And then it was kind of like a voice we would do as well. She kind of talked like this. I don't know. She was like this character. And this was like before I even did drag. And then like years later when I was like, oh, I want to do drag, I asked my friend, I was like, can I just become Jackie Cox? And he was like, yes. So here I am. That's the origin of the name.
So I'm going to pick up on something you just said about when I decided to do.
Yeah.
I don't know that you wake up in the morning and you sit up in bed, you're like, boy, I'd love to throw that on as a caftan. I mean, how did you decide and were you encouraged?
Yeah, so I went to school for theater, and shortly after I graduated, I was cast in a production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. That was kind of my first introduction of the power of drag as like performance. And I moved to New York after that. And when I was in New York, I moved to New York maybe to do theater, but I realized I didn't really love the theater scene. So a friend of mine was producing this drag pageant at New York Stages, which is an off-Broadway theater. And he was like, come do it. And I was like, I've never done drag before. He's like, no, you'll be great. You did Hedwig, you can totally do this. So I was like, okay. So I just kind of did it on a whim. It was my first night performing as Jackie Cox, and there were 5 girls in the competition that night. And I won.
So, but, just back to something you said that I'm fascinated by. Just the power of.
Yeah.
Are we referring to the power of being on stage in character, or is it in fact this transformation in the costume and what you decide to wear that makes you almost able to not to be someone else that's based on who you are? But I don't know if that makes sense, but.
Well, we are at Comic-Con, and I would say, ask any superhero what their costume gives them. It gives you a little bit of power, it gives you a little bit of strength, it gives you kind of a sense of being larger than life when you walk onto a stage or walk into a room. And so drag is such an amazing art form, and I think now people are harnessing it, and I think we're recognizing that drag is for everyone. And I say this with all due respect and love for Catherine Hahn. Her Agatha Harkness, to my mind, is a drag queen. I mean, look at this ridiculous outfit. She's coming in with giant purple capes and huge hair, and I'm like, this is a drag queen. And I think we, as queer people, we are able to step into our power sometimes when we have things like drag or, just that extra step of confidence in a high heel. So it's something I embrace, and Jackie has given me and my non-drag life even more confidence as well.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're showing some leg, because I read an interview in Entertainment Weekly where you said that you felt you had good legs. You like your legs.
Thank you.
And you wore shorts a lot, and everybody liked that.
I did. I did wear a lot of short shorts. Yeah, I did do that. Well, you know what? I've always had my legs been the most muscular part of my body. So
is that on purpose? Or?
I think it might just be from running around in heels. Or I have another theory. My legs are a little crooked. I'm knock-kneed and bow-legged at the same time. So I think my legs have just had to work harder my whole life because they're all kind of crookedy.
So does Jackie Cox allow you to do something that maybe you weren't allowed to do as a kid?
Oh, totally. Definitely embracing my feminine side. I think as I'm someone who identifies as gender expansive, which to me is I'm a gay man, but I'm pushing the boundaries of what being a man is to include the parts of the feminine that maybe people haven't included in the past. I think there's a lot of conversations today around gender and gender expression and gender identity, and I think what's amazing about drag is it's this beautiful hyper-feminine expression of myself that then I can still incorporate bits of femininity into my day-to-day life. Wear a beautiful necklace, wear a pearl earring, wear little things when I'm not even in drag, and I think having the access to the femininity with drag has allowed me to be more of myself all the time.
As you were saying that, in my mind, I'm like, here's to the ladies who lunch.
Yeah, why not?
All right, I'm going to answer you a totally corporate interview question.
Okay, good.
I ask all the time.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Where do I see myself in 5 years?
Did you read ahead?
I did.
That's exactly what we want. It's the kind of thing that frustrates people because I don't know what I'm doing 5 days from now, let alone 5 years. But what have you tackled, or what are you going to tackle that you haven't done?
You know what? I've started to dabble in more scripted television and film, which is really exciting to me. Just being on the set of Days of Our Lives is a really cool experience. So I'd love to manifest more of that in my future, more kind of taking acting to the next step in and out of drag. What's been really exciting for me is how much people have responded to me out of drag since being on RuPaul's Drag Race. So to see where that goes and what I can do both as Jackie Cox and as my non-drag.
So that's a fascinating scripted. Is a different creative outlet because you're not inventing the words.
I'm not.
So if you're a Jackie Cox and you're on stage, you're reacting to people, and you might pick someone out of the crowd and have a fun moment.
For sure.
And that will pivot your performance in a completely different direction. Yeah. Roll with it. Scripted is, here's your lines, and how you invest yourself in that. And that's since you went to school.
I did.
But has a return to it? Is it different now that you've done Jackie Cox and if you return to scripted is something that's different?
Well, I certainly think, it's fun to use some of the things I've learned from drag, but then also it's fun to just kind of lose yourself in a different character. And I think what's exciting about the future of entertainment is we're now telling more honest stories about queer people. And I'm still waiting for the show that's about a drag queen that's not the sassy drag queen at the bar. I get the amount of auditions I get pulled into where you're like, you're going to play the sassy drag queen at the bar. The main characters meet, and they're all written kind of like this Mae West kind of thing, right? It's like, hey, officer, or whoever walks in, and you're like, twirling a cigarette. And I'm like, I think there's more to, like any artist. There's shows about, writers, painters, actors. There needs to be some shows about drag queens in our real lives. And then beyond that, just the broader expression of being a queer person of Middle Eastern descent, I think is an exciting point of view that I would love to share both in scripted and in my non-scripted stuff too. Hosting is something I love to do, and drag has definitely given me the access to do that. Podcasting is something that I'm getting into. So there's just, Drag Race is such an amazing platform because it gives you all of this kind of visibility all of a sudden. And then what's exciting to me is just being open to where the universe takes me.
Well, I wanted to touch on that with you, or we wanted to, about you're Persian.
I am.
Part Persian, and you made a statement on the show when you had dressed in, and I always pronounce it wrong, hijab.
Hijab.
Hijab. I don't know why they say
Hijab is actually the Arabic word, and in Farsi, the more common word people use is rusari, which means literally on your head, like head covering. But hijab is the more commonly known word here.
So the hijab, and when you come out in that, and it certainly made a statement for a number of reasons, and I think it was very brave of you to do that. And I wondered, did you get pushback from the Persian community, Persian Americans, or did you get a lot of people that were saying, yeah, right on, and were, what was the response, I guess?
Yeah,
overall?
There's been a lot of response. A lot of it's just been, gratitude from Middle Eastern community, the Persian community and beyond, just having some representation that was positive. And there is a big conversation especially among Persian women around the idea of mandatory headscarves in Iran, which is the law under Islamic law. And I'm, of course, against that. I think women should have the right to choose what they wear on their bodies and what they wear on their head, or choose not to. And something that I've had to clarify since the show is, by standing on stage in a hijab, representing what I think is the importance of religious and ethnic minorities here in the United States, I'm also at the same time saying oppressive governments overseas are still not okay. I want freedom for women both here to feel comfortable wearing a hijab and without the fear of being ridiculed or ostracized or
stereotyped
differently or stereotyped. And then I want freedom for women back in Iran to also have the freedom to choose not to wear. So it's a complex conversation, but I'm happy to have it, and I've definitely seen a lot of gratitude from the greater Middle Eastern community as well for that.
I actually thought you handled that incredibly gracefully, and those conversations can go off the rails very quickly. And I've chosen your words very carefully and thoughtfully. And I think that it's hard to meet that. You did a great job. We're talking to Jackie Cox, by the way, the one and only.
Hi, I'm here.
And we're here at Comic-Con New York City, and we're going to wrap up with, well, Tim, there's two questions.
Okay.
This one is, what advice would you give your younger self
Okay.
and an aspiring artist? Like, if you were giving your younger self or an aspiring artist advice, what would it be?
What I would say to any young person, and probably myself, I needed to hear this when I was younger too, is you can only be yourself. And so I think your goal as an artist is to find yourself and be the best version of that. And I see, certainly when I was younger and I moved to New York and I was trying to do theater, and you're always trying to like be this type of person that you think people will want to cast. And what I found is the more I'm myself, the more people kind of see me, who I am in other things. And that's what I would say to any young person is you can only really be the best version of you. And so trying to be, comparing yourself to other people is honestly a waste of time. And that's the biggest thing that I think young people and young artists do is they waste their time comparing themselves. Oh, am I like this person or this drag queen or this, actor on TV or whatever it is. And that's just, like, why do that? It's just, honestly, you'll just spend your whole life waiting to be something you're not.
And then the final question.
Can
you tell us something about yourself that nobody knows? It's not in your bio. But we'd be surprised about.
I used to say that my secret was always that I'm a Star Trek fan, but I feel like that's now.
John, do you have a boyfriend?
I do. I have a
John,
partner of 10 years.
Right, and if he wasn't married, I think we have a match made in heaven.
Yeah, so I have a partner of 10 years who's amazing and I love so much. And but I used to say that I was a Star Trek fan. That was like my secret, but now I think everyone knows I'm a Star Trek fan because I post about it a lot. So I guess what's another secret? I'm a big Disney pin collector.
Wow.
How's that one?
That's a great one.
Is that a good one?
That's a good one, Jackie. Yes.
That's okay. That'll be my secret for today.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group at ESPN. It's here in Allen for Comic-Con.
And I have free socks.
You get free Focus Group socks. They're quite valuable. Everybody loves them. So it's Jackie Cox. Jackie, any URLs, Instagram, anything you want listeners to know?
Everything is Jackie Cox NYC on Instagram, Twitter.
Your branding is spot on.
Jackie Cox NYC. You know the city I'm at. You know where I live, including Venmo. Jackie Cox NYC.
Send those cards and letters using Venmo. All right. We are Jackie. Thank you again.
Thank
and we're going to take a really quick break and be back, so stay with us. Thank you to SPI Marketing for having the focus group join them in their Queer and Ally Lounge here at Comic-Con New York City. And we are now talking to former RuPaul's Drag Race contestant, fabulous drag queen Tammie Brown. And sitting right next to me is the one and only Tammie Brown. You are tired. Totally, it's Comic-Con, because I just realized that this is an E.T. dress. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here.
Hi. Why am I at Comic-Con? Because Spin Cycle brought me, and it's nice to be here with you all. And I'm having a show tomorrow night, actually, Friday night, on the 8th, when will they be listening to this?
This will be at the end of the month.
Oh, well, it is a long time ago. Spooky dooky doo, it's Halloween now.
Exactly, yeah.
But I'm here for Spin Cycle, and I'll be doing my show here in New York, and then some photo shoots and stuff like that. And it's just always lovely to come to New York and be part of it.
Well, where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Texas and Mexico.
My Lord.
Thanks for joining us. I have to say, I'm a huge fan. I don't want you to take this the wrong way. I haven't seen you in a while, but I'm a huge fan of Lucille Ball. Has anybody told you that you look a little bit like Lucille Ball?
I've always gotten Lucille Ball a lot. Marlena Dietrich, Lucille Ball, a lot of Lucille Ball, but that kind of has changed. But yeah, Lucille Ball always at the beginning of the career. Oh, you should impersonate Lucille Ball and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't think you should impersonate her because you're your own person. But I just saw that sitting here, and I think it's uncanny. So with what's all going on with, we call it the event because whenever we say the word of what's going on, we get knocked off of social media. So with what's happened in the last year and a half, how has that changed for you in terms of work and trying to get out there and with career and everything? Have you tried to be we're all tired of Zoom. We're all tired of doing stuff virtually. So have you seen the industry starting to pick back up with more events and getting out there live?
Well, I think most of all we need to focus right now is that everybody's still sensitive. Because I have had fights with friends, and friends have had fights with me. I just want everybody's still sensitive, and we're not done with this. I think that we still should be wearing our masks on the streets. I think that's a smart idea. In fact, I know from my associate friends, my romantic lovers, foreign lovers, or exotic lovers in Bulgaria. One of them is working as a police officer, and they're having protests in Bulgaria regarding the mask wearing and whatnot. And they believe it's a bit of a conspiracy there. And there are also Trump supporters in Bulgaria, but that's one thing. It's a beautiful country. The food is great. But I believe that people are still sensitive, and we need to focus that we are all still sensitive because it's a major issue. There's still fights, and everybody thinks that, oh, we're in the clear. We're not in the clear. And if you know, studying the Spanish flu, it happened, it was 2 years of that. And then just because we're in modern times, I can understand people not wanting to be injected because we don't know what the outcome's going to be of this in the long run. But I think it's very important to go out there and, get the vaccine. And I think we should share the vaccine with the rest of the world instead of just keeping it to ourselves, being arrogant Americans.
Tammie, I'm sorry for smiling so much, but I find you to be highly entertaining. Were you always drawn to performance? And you might not have thought it was performance as a child. You might have just been an introvert, but did you fall into this naturally? How did you get into this?
Entertainment is something I always wanted to do, and like I've said many a times before, when I watched the movie What's Love Got to Do with It with Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne, the Tina Turner story, that was when the light came on for me. But prior to that, I had been entertaining and knew how to entertain. It's something that came to me naturally. And now finally I've been able to embrace that I am a comedian, because I wasn't a comedian that sits there and writes jokes. I'm just naturally funny. So like when RuPaul's Drag Race, when they were like, oh, that's not funny, whatever. And I said that I can just stand there and people laugh. It's just something, it's a gift that I'm naturally funny. So now I will say, yes, I'm a comedian,
To follow up on this, do you know yourself well enough to say that you're as funny out of your persona as when?
Oh, of course, that's just naturally funny. I'm funny either way. That's funny face, isn't that a term? So, and I don't have body dysmorphia or anything. But, poor things, if they do, come to me, I'll help you. But, no, I don't. It's just naturally funny. Naturally, it's just who I am. And I'm lucky, very fortunate, because that's a gift, to be able to entertain. And I do believe that we are, being homosexuals or gays or two-spirit, whatever you want to have it, that we're conduits and here to help out. We're nurturers. And I think that's part of my gift, so.
We talk a lot about career on our show, being a business and career-focused show. What advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self is just continue to be patient and not be so hard on yourself. And, enjoy the journey, because I thoroughly enjoy the journey. And back to the question you were asking about Zooms and all that. I was successful at home, working from home. I make my own little dolls. They're called rag queens, made with my previously worn designer nylons for all you kinky cats out there. And they're soft sculptures, but I make those, and then I do my embroidered facial impressions, and then I sell my merchandise. Planet Tammie is my merch, and I did Planet Tammie, correct. And then, and I have, people that are in my team that work for me, John Mark, and I have the TV show. And last year we were able to film Holiday Sparkle, which is on Amazon Prime. And there's also my show, The Browns, which is on Amazon Prime. And this November we'll be releasing, we filmed actually this June, and it's being edited right now, The Browns. So we'll have the second season of The Browns, which will be on Out TV. So, but I was able to manage through COVID, and I have many different sources of income, and was able to do it. But it is annoying to perform on TV. On the computer. It's really difficult, and then also it's boring. Like for example, I do Wednesdays. I would do Wednesday night lives on Instagram and connect with people. And the politics of that has all changed too. It's really, and the marketing of Instagram, which is rather annoying, but it's my cash cow Instagram. But it's just sitting there is difficult, and it gets boring. it does get boring. Not having the reaction with people is rather
Like the reaction I'm having now.
One final question we ask everybody, and we were shocked already once today. We'll see if we get shocked again. Is there something you'd tell us about yourself that's not in the bio, not something that nobody knows about you that they'd be surprised about?
something that they'd be surprised about. Well, I have my secrets.
That's what we want to know.
And I think it's very important for one to have secrets. And I enjoy exotic lovers. How about that? And to be honest with you, I really enjoy being on the continent of America. I love the whole continent of America. And I do know that the ice is melting, so that'll probably bring on some other problems too that we haven't seen yet either.
You've heard.
Oh, well, yes. Well, it is melting, and that's a fact. Climate change is a reality, and we need to support our indigenous cultures, real American culture, because we don't know any of that.
That if the last year has shown us anything, it's how little we actually know. Tammie Brown, fabulous personality. I want to thank you for joining us on the Focus Group today. Let our listeners know a couple spots where they can find you.
Planet Tammie.
Planet Tammie, is that planettammie.com?
That's planettammie.com with an IE, of course. And then you have my Instagram, Planet Tammie. Then I have a TikTok. And you can also find, I'm not certified or verified yet on my TikTok, which I don't understand what's going on. Testing. And then website, Instagram, YouTube channel. The Browns is coming out very soon this November, so stay tuned with that. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's a great pleasure to speak with you. And you can see I'm smiling so much the back of my head hurts. So.
Oh, and the dress was Franklin J. She constructs. She's a designer, and she constructs from bed sheets, vintage bed sheets, and creates these really cool novice pieces.
John wants it.
John likes it. Yeah, it took me a second. Oh my God, it's Elliot. It's E.T. Oh no.
I have a new piece on its way, trolls, little treasure trolls, because I just love trolls. Those Thomas Dam. Thomas Dam. I just love those vintage trolls. I have a huge collection. And Greta Garbo, she used to put the trolls under her sofa in her Manhattan apartment.
I didn't know that. Seriously? Mm-hmm. All right, Tammie, thank you again for your time so much. The Focus Group is at Comic-Con New York City, coming to you from SPI Marketing's Queer and Ally Lounge. And sitting next to me is the one and only and very glamorous Yuhua Hamasaki.
Yes, that's correct. I am here. I'm super duper excited. Hello, y'all.
It's a pleasure to see you. You look beautiful. Welcome to Comic-Con. First question for you, and this is just for our audience, for those who may not know you, and we're hoping it's a very big small minority. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. My name is Yuwa Masaki. I'm a fierce, or as I like to think, a fierce drag performer here living in New York City.
And are you performing shows now? Here, Josie.
Virtually and in person. We're slowly getting out of the pandemic, so we're slowly getting out there.
Yeah.
But most of the country is still in lockdown. I mean, we're very lucky here in New York City that we get to do this.
So, have you been able to perform for your audiences via Zoom, etc.? And has that been satisfactory?
It's not the same, but I think it's better than nothing, right? I think us as performers, especially drag performers, we feed off of the audience energy and what they give us. So if it's not live, it's not the same, but I think we do what we can do during these times.
So how long have you been doing what you're doing?
What am I doing?
What are you doing? Well, you're drag.
Okay.
And how long have you been doing it, and how did you get started?
So I started when I was 15, 16-ish, and I've been doing it, I want to say, a decade and a half. I got started because there were not many LGBTQ groups out there or youth groups out there back in the day. Not back in the day, but like 10, 15 years ago. And I think we've gotten better. But I started doing it because there was no support group for me. That the only way to be around people that were similar to me were at the clubs. So I dressed up in drag, I went to the bars, I went to the clubs, I saw people that were similar to me, they talked the way that I did, and I felt free. So that's why I started doing drag. And it was also another way for me to gain back those years that I didn't get to have fun, because as a child, I was always feeling like I had to be very low profile, because I knew that if I were to be myself, I was going to be seen as the gay kid, and I didn't want that. So I think drag really helped save me, but also helped me gain back all those years that I didn't get to have fun.
So performance
Yes.
and drag, which I think is fantastic, is your career now.
Mm-hmm.
Was it always your career, or did you start in a different area and kind of move into this with a passion when you discovered it?
I think it all kind of tied in one way or another. I knew that when I was younger, I wanted to become a teacher. I mean, I'm still kind of teaching, but just with a wig on. You know, I'm still motivating people. I'm still educating people. I'm still trying to make the world just a little bit better for people out there that are younger than me. And I liked all the things that are colorful. I liked costumes. I liked makeup. So I was able to put all of that together. I knew that I wanted to be like Britney Spears when I was younger. I saw her music videos, I saw her concerts, I wanted to be like her, but I just didn't know that drag was a possibility. So that I think it all tied in together beautifully.
I'm sorry, I'm having a flashback to a Britney video.
Oh.
Oops, I did it again. When I went down and got it for you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a very visual mind
Yeah.
like that. So, tell us about something that you'd like to tackle that you haven't done. Maybe it could be a space you want to perform in, or maybe it's a different character you want to portray.
I want to be in movies, I want to be in films more.
Really?
Drag artists, I think we're more than just performing at a bar or club. Sorry about it, I think we're better than that. You know, I think it's fun, it's great. But I think we are...
Do you think your energy would work the same way on a set with a director and camera in a script, as opposed to your kind of the energy you get from a crowd where you can, someone says something, you react, your show changes subtly. You know what I'm getting at? Like,
Yes, with directions and
Yeah.
and what do you call it? And
hit your mark.
yeah,
Here's your line.
I think I should be fine because you know I'm familiar with video work. I'm familiar with cameras and stuff like that. So I think it'll be fine. It'll be new. I think it'll be a new market for people to see drag in film and TV more. But I think
But now here's one for you. Do you think you'll have to dial back your performance?
of course, yes.
So you know what I'm talking
Yes,
about because
yes.
you are bigger than life
Yeah.
doing what you do. And for the screen and for motion pictures, often it's the smaller, the quiet performance that
Yeah.
captures us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think if the straights can be on TV, why not the gays? We deserve same rights, right?
Now, are you from New York City?
I am originally from China, but I moved here when I was 7. So I think I consider myself a New Yorker native, whatever you want to call it.
So your family moved here
Yes.
from China. So were you encouraged as a young kid to be creative and to be who you are, or was this a struggle for you?
Yes and no. I think my parents were very encouraging in what I wanted to do in the straight world, if that makes sense. So like they were very encouraging if I want to become a doctor or a lawyer or a businessman. Whatever you want to do in the straight world, we encourage you. So this is like very, very new to them and different. And also the word I'm looking for is, how do I put this nicely? Unsupportive in the beginning.
Have they seen you perform?
Not yet, but they've seen photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would think it would be you know, I often wondered about a lot of drag performers how it would be. You know, a lot of times you hear stories about either the family was very supportive or not. You don't hear kind of middle of the road stuff. And I was just wondered how it was for you.
I think at this point, they just want me to be happy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're better with it now.
Right.
Yeah, I think they're more encouraging in the way that they don't want to lose me, because I feel like when you don't have supportive family, you kind of build your own family, and I think that they don't want me to build my own family and disconnect from them. I think that way they're more supportive, and that way they don't want to lose me then.
So that could be a win-win. Your family and your adopted family.
Exactly.
And I think that's so great that you said that, because for so many decades, many of us in the LGBTQ community have had to build families.
Yeah.
Even some of us who have family support, you still need another thing.
Yeah.
Now, okay, this is a question that Tim's been asking, and this is the question. Tell us something about, how'd you put it, Tim?
Tell us.
Well, you ask.
Tell us something about yourself that's not in your bio that nobody knows that you've revealed in interviews that we'd be surprised about.
I'm a natural teal color hair woman. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. What is one thing that I've never revealed before?
That we'd be surprised about. People would be surprised to know about you.
I'm actually an introvert.
That is actually not. I'm surprised because it's such an extroverted field you're in. But so when you're not on stage, you like to be quiet.
Yeah, like this drains me. I'm sorry, but like, no offense, but like all this like stuff drains me. Like
you're performing.
You're performing.
Yeah, like
you know exactly what you're talking about.
when I go home, I need to recharge. I don't talk to nobody for a few days. I don't know if you are familiar with how introverts are, like when they're out socializing, it takes a lot of energy.
All energy.
Yeah, like
10%. Now you gotta. Well, I hope you haven't drained your battery.
oh, not yet. But after today, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna lay on my bed for a few days, and I'm gonna recharge, read TV, don't talk to nobody, and then in a few days, I'm ready to do it again.
Fantastic.
That's
All
interesting. Yeah.
Focus group here coming to you from Comic-Con, Jan Ash with Tim Bennett. We've been talking to Yuhua Hamasaki.
You got it.
Oh, thank the maker.
It's only been 14 years, John. You've gotten one right. You never get names right.
But I did practice. I want to thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group. We're going to come back to you from Comic-Con after this quick break.
All right. Thank you all.
The Focus Group is at Comic-Con New York City, coming to you from SPI Marketing's Queer and Ally Lounge. Thank you to SPI Marketing for having Tim and I, and the Focus Group join them in their Queer and Ally Lounge here at Comic-Con New York City. And coming up next is an interview that I did with artist and writer for Archie Comics, Dan Parent. Give you a little bit of background here. Dan is an American comic book artist and writer, best known for his work for Archie Comics. He's illustrated Love Showdown, Felix the Cat, Barbie, Disney Adventures, and with Fernando Ruiz, created the comic series Die, Kitty, Die, which we do talk about. Parent is credited with giving Archie Comics a relevance with contemporary artwork and innovative storylines that would not have been seen in years past. In fact, in Veronica number 202, which is an Archie comic, Kevin Keller was introduced, and he is the first openly gay character in the Archies. He was written and drawn by Dan Parent. Dan also visualized Dominique Jackson in a poster in the Archie style. She's doing a runway show. And with that, I want to welcome Dan to the show. So Dan Parent, welcome to the Focus Group. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
And it's a pleasure to have you. And our whole thing is an intersection of career and identity. So one of the first things I want to ask you is, how did you get the bug for comics and for writing?
Well, I grew up as a comic book fan, from a very early age. I think 5 years old, I was reading comics. Of course, back then I was reading Harvey Comics, Casper, Richie Rich, all of them, and Archie.
I think I might have had a crush on Cadbury. That's the butler.
Oh, yes. I remember Cadbury,
Okay.
Of course. That's right. And so that's where I started and went into Archie at the same time and got into superhero comics later. But really, from the earliest age, I remember reading comics.
So you named all the comics that I actually paid attention to as a kid, and I was not necessarily drawn to the superhero genre per se,
Right.
but Richie Rich, Casper the Friendly Ghost, like I somehow related more to those characters. So did that kind of direct you into Archie more?
A little bit, because Archie was also one of the first. I think Harvey was first, Harvey Comics, and then Archie. And just because I think it's the illustrations are more simply drawn, they draw in like a younger eye, maybe. Where it was a little, maybe when I was 8 or 9, 10 years old is when I got into more superhero stuff. But always never left the Archie comics or the Harvey comics. I always stayed a fan of them.
All right. So what would you say as an influence in growing up, a mentor or someone who encouraged you to pursue this? Did you have a particular individual who has actually, Dan, this is something you got to pursue or you got to do?
Well, actually, I was in high school. I took all the art classes. That was my big thing. I was the class artist and all that. But when I got out of school, a couple of my friends went to the Joe Kubert School, which is a cartooning school.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go because I thought, well, I should be more practical. So I went to college to be an English teacher, and I just was not.
Wait. That's almost an accidental career. You went to college to be an English teacher, right?
Yes.
Okay. I like this.
And it was not it was just I was miserable. I went and I was excelling in my art classes at college, but it was just kind of like getting through the other classes. And then I talked to my mom about it. My mom was like, you should go to the Kubert School. You should go get into. You really love this. So my mom was really the one that pushed me to do it because she could see I was just sort of like, it wasn't like I was not miserable, but I just was sort of like not that energized by what I was doing. I was doing the practical route, which is not, artists are not practical. So you
were putting the bread on the table route. That's the route you're doing.
Exactly.
Roof over the head, bread on the table.
And my mom said, she's like, well, just, try it. You're young. You go for it because, you know how it is.
If you fall down, you get up.
Plenty of time. So I went to the Joe Kubert School and never looked back. Never looked back.
Let me ask you a personal question. Were you always a good draftsman? And what I mean by that, when I use the word draftsman, probably I want to describe that for our listeners. I just mean you had a knack for drawing.
Well, yes and no. I had an artistic flair, but I wasn't naturally like a fantastic artist. There was a part that I had to learn. And when I went to the Kubert School, I was sort of like in the middle of the road when I started. I was decent. But there was many artists way better than I was. So I just sort of learned to, a lot of it was about like learning how to like design and sort of composition, framing. I think I was good at that too. Or I became good at that. But I wasn't like, there are some artists who are just like born fantastic. And those are the ones you want to kill because it's so unfair. Well, but there are people who just born, they just like draw, like they don't need to go to art school. I was not one of them.
I learned that I went to school for computer animation, character animation. I like computer. And I did that because I thought maybe I didn't need to know how to draw if I was on a computer. Nothing could be further from the truth. You did have to know how to draw.
It helps. And same thing
even for a thumbnail.
Yeah. When I went to school, it was before computer technology. So we had to do everything by hand.
Rapidographs,
paste ups and mechanicals and all that. Then I graduated from school in 87. And then, of course, everything went digital shortly thereafter. So I had to go back to school at night
to learn the software.
To learn Photoshop and stuff. Yeah. So, but it really helped knowing how to do it manually because it was much easier to go digital without having to use paste, use rubber cement. And,
do you remember waxing?
Yes,
the waxer.
Waxing and ruby liths. If I never see another ruby lith again, I'll be fine.
Had to have a sharp X-Acto for a ruby lith.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so when you went into comics, and you've actually been your career. I mean, you've been aligned with Archie for quite a long time.
35 years.
So my thing is, when you was it a space that you would think was welcoming? Not only to you professionally, but to the storylines that were to come out later, like for LGBTQ characters?
No, they weren't open to it at all at first. Well, what had happened was the reason I was able to create Kevin is because we had new management at the company after many years. And what had happened was the first 25 years I was at Archie, it was Archie, just to go back a little bit, Archie's run by two families. And they're still a privately owned company.
I didn't know that.
There's no corporation that owns Archie. They're one of the last family-owned companies. So it's two companies that run it. The two owners died in 2007, 2008, around there. So the new family members took over, particularly John Goldwater, who was the, brother of the other owner, also like 25 years younger, which helps. And
generational.
Definitely generational.
All right, interesting.
So when he came on board, he was like, what's happening here? Why is Riverdale so non-diverse? And I was like, well, I've been saying that for like about a decade now, but no one listened to me. I mean, it was to the point where before that, like in the 90s, I think I had a story where Archie was, or where I wanted to do a story where Betty was dating Chuck, who was our African American character, and even then they were like, they were frowning on it because their words were, well, we're not against it, but some people might not like it, which is a horrible. That's a horrible excuse for not doing it.
No, but you just said something that I find fascinating. When someone says to you, "Why isn't Riverdale more diverse?" It's almost like you're talking about a real place.
Yeah.
And so within the confines of this world, these are real people to you.
Absolutely.
And it's a real place, real characters.
Oh, absolutely. And they represent. They're just to represent the idyllic small town. And it's not an ideal place if there's no diversity going on. So we really took care of it. We introduced a lot of different characters of different ethnicities. But and then when I had said to John Goldwater, can we have a gay character? He was like, I thought about it and I couldn't think of one reason to not have a gay character. So we have to have a gay character.
Introducing Kevin to the Archie universe was I think it was Veronica number 22 or
it was Veronica 202.
202. Groundbreaking. Was there pushback?
Not from the company at all. There was some pushback in the internet, of course, the trolls as we call them.
Well, I was wondering if it's a devoted reader or someone who loves the world of Riverdale, or is it someone who's kind of observing this and how dare they do this?
Well, it's interesting because 95% of the Archie fans were totally on board. They loved the idea of it. They were
a big
accepting
percentage,
and I knew they would be. I've been out there with the fans many years, and I know our audience. But there was that small core, the Christian fundamentalists, whatever you want to call them, who were not happy about it. They were really not happy when we did Adult Kevin a few years later in another book where he got married.
As in gay married.
Yes, gay married. Yes. He didn't marry a woman. And that caused the 1 million moms came out in droves. And
by the way, the 1 million moms I think is two women at a table and somewhere with a Formica floor.
Right. Yeah, we found that out. It was great because their protests caused the book to sell out because the book actually wasn't selling that great. Like it was selling okay. And then what happened was the book was in Toys R Us. And the woman was so outraged.
Major retailer Toys R Us, right?
Right, Toys R Us. And the woman saw the Kevin cover, where they're holding hands on the cover, and she was outraged that the youth of America would be like destroyed by seeing that image of two men holding hands on a cover. So she started her campaign, and then the book sold out. They helped us sell the book. So we have always hoped for 1 million moms to protest every book we put out because every book will sell out.
You have to almost design your covers to trigger the 1 million moms, right?
Exactly. And then the other pushback was we had a few, I won't name them all, but like there was even a couple longtime Archie artists who were very conservative who...
the artists were?
Yeah. A couple of artists and writers for us actually quit.
Now, this surprises me a great deal, and I'll just tell you by way of saying this is when I moved to New York as an art director, a graphic designer, and gay, you would say to somebody, if they knew you were gay, like, what do you do? Oh, I'm an art director. Oh, yeah. Well, of course you are, right? Or you're a photographer, you're an illustrator. But I would always find that there was a lot of inclusion or inclusivity in the thinking of like-minded artists and stuff. So this is a surprise that an illustrator would actually say...
For the most part, again... We're talking 80% of the Archie or 90% of the Archie artists and writers were totally on board with this, but there was a longtime artists and Archie's again we're more
institutional.
We're more conservative generally, I would say, than most companies. So
like Highlights.
Highlights, yeah. I've worked for Highlights too, actually.
Goofus and Gallant were my favorites, by the way.
Yes, yeah. I did the ones where you like hide the things are hidden in the page. It was a really challenging job. But yeah, so there was some pushback from a couple longtime artists and writers who were like, we're against this. We don't want to work for you. And so our basically editors were like, all right, goodbye. Like they didn't.
They really didn't mind.
No.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, total disconnect from what we were just talking about. What do you do artistically for your personal side? Or do you even bother? Maybe you garden, maybe you woodwork or something. Is it different? Is your passion different?
I have no skills, but no. I just one thing I did a few years ago was, as you listed in my intro, I did a book called Die Kitty Die with my friend Fernando.
You call it like a graphic novel, right?
It's a graphic novel.
Okay.
It's we did it as a Kickstarter, and we basically we did like 4 issues that would be put into like a graphic novel. So we did that because that was sort of like if you look at it, it's sort of like a more like a little more adult, a little more way out Archie sort of style.
So it's more of that project was more of a way for you to leave Riverdale.
Yes, exactly.
And tell a story and be a different person and maybe even a different artist on some level. Was there a different executional style as well?
The style is still in the Archie style. It's just a little bit more revved up a little bit. It's just a little more adult, a little more detailed. But it's in the Archie vein. If you saw it in a bookshelf in a comic shop, you'd know it was me. But it's still different enough from the Archie stuff. And so that I've done 4 Kickstarters of Die Kitty Die since then. That sort of like feeds the other side. I mean, I guess, I could also I should do something different artistically, like paint or something, but I just am so entwined in comic books. I just keep doing comics.
And your work is, as a work process, you're probably on Cintiq and digital now, or do you still go back and do actual ink on board?
Everything's ink on board.
You still do ink on board? Really?
Yes. Everything's drawn by hand. I have to, of course, scan it into the computer and color it in Photoshop. My ink's kind of sloppy, so I'll scan it and clean it up in Photoshop and color it. But there's an original piece to every page that I do, which also is, marketing wise, it's good. And, financial wise, it's good for me because I do a lot of conventions and I can sell the original artwork. You can't sell digital art.
Well, you can. I think that's what these NFT things are these days. But
yeah.
I don't understand.
I'm not
any
sure
of
how.
that.
Yeah, I don't get that either. So I just I definitely sell my original art. So that gives me my income at shows. So I do the best of both worlds.
I think that's great. I think it's really great that you're still doing the actual physical, tangible drawing. Yeah. Scan in ink. It's a perfect use of both, I think.
I feel like we're hitting both territories there. So that's been good. And I still do and then in Illustrator I still do my designs, my font, my logos and things like that. And,
Adobe's got us all.
They
got their hand in my pocket.
They own us.
That Creative Cloud is sucking the money out every day.
They do.
So back to the world of Archie for a second, or the industry in general. How do you see inclusion expanding or moving forward?
Well, I mean, we've seen a lot of strides made in the last 10 years. And how I can't see it. I can't see us going backward because the world is not going backward. I mean, we have to keep moving forward.
Can't just get rid of Kevin.
No,
he exists.
No. And the important thing with Kevin was that we wanted to make sure when we introduced Kevin that, it didn't come off as like a stunt. Because there was a few things that were going on at the time where they would introduce a gay character in another company, and they would, then they were kind of forgotten about.
Or with a different timeline, or some weird,
it had some other realm. So this was just, we wanted to introduce Kevin in a really authentic way, with the mindset that Kevin is here to stay. And of course, the audience decides that.
Very much so.
When Veronica 202 came out, it was our first book that ever sold out. So that's a good sign.
Back to thank you, Million Moms.
Yes, thank you. And they weren't even around for that one, but I'm sure they were in the sideline somewhere. But
so. What have you not tackled in your career that you want to tackle? It could be a passion project. It could be something in Archie land, but that you haven't gotten to that you really want to do.
I mean, I do love superhero stuff. And one thing I got to do that was a lot of fun. I did a series a couple years ago, Archie Meets Batman 66. So I got to do the Batman characters with Archie. And that was
actually
really
draw
cool.
them.
I got to draw the retro Batman characters from the 60s, which is really cool.
Batman 66.
Yeah.
Just so, okay. That's a different look. That reminds me.
Yeah, it's it's the Adam West, the corny Batman. Yeah. But so that was a dream. And then we do a lot of crossovers. We did a Betty and Veronica meet Vampirella. So
perfect.
It's we've done we did the B-52s.
Oh yeah. I just heard about this, by the way, being a huge fan. Huge fan.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did I not know this?
Yeah.
And I guess you had Fred Schneider show up in the...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I was talking to Fred Schneider on Facebook, just commenting on something. And then I messaged him and I said, it'd be really cool if we could do a team up. Because Archie's done a lot of team ups with different artists. We've done Blondie and Kiss and all the other bands. So he was like...
Kiss, I'd like to see that, yeah.
Okay, that was I think that was our first rock band crossover. That was there's so many Kiss fans. I didn't know that there was that many Kiss fans. It's crazy. But he just gave me the name of his manager, and he was the B-52's manager, and he goes, just give this to Archie. So I did, and then a week later, we had the project going. It was the easiest thing in the world.
By the way, for anybody listening, it doesn't always work that way.
No.
Nothing happens in a week. Not like that.
But sometimes the weirdest crossovers happen when you don't expect them. Because that's how the Blondie one happened too. I was talking to Chris Stein of Blondie on Facebook, and I said the same thing. It'd be cool to do a crossover. Here's my manager's number. And I gave it to Archie, and then that happened.
Wow.
So,
all right.
And then there's the ones you want to happen, and
They don't.
and then there's like like a dead silence. You don't hear anything from
Or
them.
layers and layers of get back.
Or then there's the ones who are like, I need the original art, and I need to make this X amount of dollars, and it's like, well, this is a comic book, you're not going to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars in
It's
royalties on
comics,
this. So
All right, we're going to wrap up in a second here, but a couple little questions. What advice would you give to your younger self about being, or how to be an aspiring artist? Or would you go back and give any advice? Is there something that you would say, oh boy, if I could go back 25, 30 years, here's exactly what I'd say?
There's not that I pretty much everything has gone on course the way I would like it to, and the way it has. I would have just skipped that year of college that I wasted.
So, are you going to be an English professor?
Right.
Yeah.
Where I would be really having a boring life right now. Not that English teachers are boring. My son's a teacher, so it's a very honorable profession. Just not for me. And I have taught before. I did teach at Kubert School too. So.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you find that actually?
It was fun.
Because I think teaching is an art form that is really undervalued, and your experience as a student is completely different as a teacher, having to come up with curriculum, goalposts, where you want to take a student from here to here. So that was probably a very interesting.
Well, the good thing about teaching at the Kubert School is, since I went to the school too, is that the students see you as a working professional, so they know that that you went through the whole grind of going to school, and then you made a living out of it. So, and even like yesterday here at the show, I think all the Kubert School students were here yesterday. They get to like come here for free as part of their deal.
Cool. Okay.
So so they were there coming to our tables and seeing us set up, and seeing that we are making a living doing this, which is you need that encouragement, because it's a scary thing, and it's even scarier than 30 years ago when I was going to school, because it's the comic market has shrunk.
Yeah, it has.
And publishing in general isn't what it used to be. So it's encouraging for them to see that they can make a living doing this.
And my co-host Tim, who was here yesterday, he's not here today. He likes to ask the following: tell us something about yourself, or something that no one else knows.
Oh, jeez. Well, I can't say that one.
That's usually the first answer out of anybody's mouth, is I can't say that.
I'm going to have a checklist of things here. I'm really boring. Like, a lousy cook, really bad. Like, there's nothing. I mean, I just watch lots and lots of TV, and that's not even interesting. I'm just.
I could go. I
like to clean.
Oh, I do too.
I like to
Let's talk about Swiffer.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I mean, I just find myself I'm working 15 hours a day or 14 hours a day. So I guess in my downtime, I just like to do nothing
and watch and not cook.
And watch lots of TV. And I have the TV on all the time when I'm working, because it's like my radio sort of. So.
I do that with original Star Trek. I know them all so well that they're like back here, and I don't really have to pay attention because I know exactly what's going to happen, right? So that's. Hey, Dan, I want to thank you for joining us. I've been speaking to Dan Parent, who's an artist whose work you really need to check out. He's most known right now for Archie and the gay character that was introduced called Kevin Keller in Veronica 202. Please also check out his work with Fernando Ruiz. It was a what did you call it? It was a GoFundMe.
It was a Kickstarter.
And that would be Die Kitty Die. It's the focus group. We're coming to you from Comic-Con's SPI Marketing's Queer and Ally Lounge. And again, Dan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here. It's been the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash, coming to you from Comic-Con New York City, courtesy of the SPI Marketing's Queer and Ally Lounge. Hey, we are going to wrap up the show here. And normally Tim would hop on the mic and have some choice words about his experience at Comic-Con, but he has departed for Philadelphia. I dropped him off at the Moynihan train station, which is the new train station. It's across from the old one. But if he were here, he would join me in thanking Scott Seitz from SPI Marketing for our participation in the Queer and Ally Lounge at Comic-Con New York City. As I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, it was a virginal moment for me. Nice to know at my age I can have a couple of virginal moments. So, without further ado, I want to thank our guests, Isaac Goodhart, Dan Parent, Jackie Cox, Tammie Brown, and Yuhua Hamasaki. Those last three always put a big smile on my face. Those drag queens are fantastic. They're great performers, wonderful entertainers, and just really cool people. And of course, Isaac and Dan are fantastic too. So thanks for joining us on this special broadcast from Comic-Con New York City, and we will see you in the new week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.